It is going to be difficult. At some point along your training, you may rethink your decision. You may think that you should never have done it, and you may think that you can't do it at all. But go ahead and push those toxic thoughts aside, okay, guys? And start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Hello, aviators, and welcome back to the Aviator's Guide. It sure is a pleasure to have you here today, watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform, learning, thriving, and growing to be a better pilot. I'm Hollie Bellino, your host, and I love helping out the next generation of pilots however and whenever I can. And this passion of mine to help out you guys and your future endeavors as pilots was reinstilled when I recently attended the Women in Aviation International Conference in Colorado last month in March. It was such an incredible experience, and I am beyond grateful I was able to go. Seeing all my fellow female aviators and having the ability to connect with pilots from all over the country and all over the world was definitely a highlight of my 2025 so far. In my next episode, I will be going into more detail about my experience at this conference, including a really big emphasis on career options I learned about while I was there for you guys. But today I want to go over some bits of information I found myself consistently repeating to all of the newer student pilots that I was encountering while I was at the event. By the way, there were a lot more student pilots there than I had anticipated. When I was a student pilot, I didn't know about these events, nor did I have the time or the money to be able to attend them. But one of the many things that I learned while I was at this conference is that there are actually organizations out there that will award you a free ticket to go to conventions like this. So that's pretty cool. But for all of you guys who are unable to attend or unable to spend the $400-ish on the tickets for the conference, I'm here to give you some unsolicited advice and tips. So let's get into some things that you're going to want to know if you do indeed want to be a career pilot. Becoming a pilot can be very daunting. You are learning a whole new field with different diction, endless acronyms, precise procedures, and of course, endless rules. It is going to be difficult. At some point along your training, you may rethink your decision. You may think that you should never have done it, and you may think that you can't do it at all. But go ahead and push those toxic thoughts aside, okay, guys? And start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. As a pilot, especially during your initial training, you're going to find yourself in many uncomfortable situations, whether it's learning how to do stalls for the first time, going on your first solo cross country, or preparing for a check ride. There are two things being said about being too comfortable when you're a pilot. The first being, if you are too comfortable, is that it can lead to complacency, and complacency can lead to mistakes. And the second thing is, if you are too comfortable, it could mean that you're potentially not growing and not learning. And we all know a good pilot is always learning, as there is endless information out there for us to learn. When you start diving into that ocean of knowledge, you will start taking exams. Endless exams. Because when you choose a life as a career pilot, you are choosing a life of exams. While in flight training, from private pilot to CFII alone, there are 11 exams, including your check rides. And when you're finished with school and you're starting to go out and brave the new world, you're still not done with exams. As long as you are a pilot, you'll be taking exams. Once you're finished with flight school, you'll be going to do your ATP, hopefully, maybe getting new type ratings, going to recurrent training, and of course, your medical exams. Taking these exams can be uncomfortable and nerve-wracking, so this ties back into being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Every pilot started out where you are right now, so just remember that you can do it. Speaking of check rides, if you do end up failing a check ride or two, it's actually not the end of the world, you guys. If you go to an interview, are you going to be asked if you failed a check ride? Most likely. If you answer yes to that question, does that mean you didn't get the job? Not necessarily. You just have to know how to properly answer that question. Just be honest with them and tell them what you learned from the situation and how it even helped you become a better pilot. You can still have an amazing career as a pilot if you failed a check ride. When it comes to preparing for these check rides or preparing to do anything in the plane in general, whether it's learning how to do a maneuver in private pilot or learning how to do an approach and instrument training, you need to learn to start chair flying. Chair flying is just what it sounds like, sitting in a chair at home or in the library or wherever and practicing what you would be doing in the plane. In my last episode, when I chatted with Muhar Mane, the CEO and co founder of Plain English, we actually discussed how beneficial chair flying is. It's a very neglected addition to training because it's more fun to be flying the plane, obviously. And it could also be a little bit cheaper for you to chair fly in the actual plane just on the ground if there is a spare plane around your flight school. The reason why chair flying is so beneficial for you guys is you can focus on the maneuvers and what your hands need to be doing for the procedures without all the added stress of making sure you're making the right calls at the right times and holding your altitude and maintaining your airspeed and all the stress that comes with flying when you're a new pilot. Chair flying allows you to perfect the movements and procedures for each maneuver before you get in the plane. So once you do get in there, there's one less thing for you to worry about. When I was in flight school, I wrote down every maneuver and then I chair flew it. I wrote down how to enter the maneuver, how to perform the maneuver, and how to recover from the maneuver. When it came to instrument training, I wrote down how to enter a hold, how to perform an instrument approach procedure, how to even circle the field to land from an instrument approach procedure, and then I chair flew it. This helped me immensely because by the time I got into the aircraft, the maneuver itself was muscle memory, and I just had to focus on flying the plane. And while you're in flight school learning all these new things and making friends, don't compare yourself to others. I know it may be difficult at times, but don't compare your progress to your fellow pilots. It took Robert 2 months to get his private pilot, and it took you 7 months. It doesn't matter. It took Lisa one practice flight before she did her solo cross country, and it took you 4 practice flights. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to progress. It only matters that you are progressing and that you are improving. I can almost guarantee you that when you go to an interview, they're not going to ask you, so how long did it take you to complete your instrument rating? No. So do yourself a favor and stop thinking you're not a good pilot because it took you longer to get your certificates. At the end of the day, everyone has the same certificates. Rate of progression is not what's going to set you apart when it comes to finding a job. What's going to set you apart is your involvement in aviation, your attitude, your hours, and your knowledge. Another thing you want to start thinking about early on in your aviation career is networking. Networking is king in aviation, y'all. I don't know how many times I've said this on my show already, you guys, but the aviation community is small. However, you don't really realize it until you get out of your flight school bubble. So start networking early. This doesn't mean you have to spend hundreds of dollars on conferences. Just go hang out in FBOs or get a part time job in an FBO. While you're at the FBO working or studying, you need to be listening, having a great attitude, and acting professional at all times. Listen to other pilots to see what kind of planes they're flying. Go ask them if you can see inside and just show that you're eager to learn. And while you're listening, keep your eye out for a single pilot. And no, I don't mean a pilot who is single and ready to mingle. I mean a pilot who is qualified for single pilot operations in his or her aircraft. Some jets you want to keep your eye out for that are certified for these single pilot operations are going to be the Cessna Citation, the Phenom, the Honda Jet, the Cirrus Vision Jet, the Beechcraft Jet, and the Pilatus PC-24. Now, why do you think you want to keep your eyes peeled and your ears perked for these single pilot aircraft? Well, what's to the right of the pilot in command? That's right, an empty seat with your name on it. Ask those pilots if they wouldn't mind you riding along for a trip for one day. Get their phone number and find them on LinkedIn. And don't forget to follow up with them. If they haven't reached out to you, don't think it's because they don't want to help. They probably just forgot. Everyone gets busy. Now, if you find yourself sitting right seat in, say, a Cessna Citation or a Phenom, you can possibly log multi-engine time, turbine time, SIC time, and dual receive time. Did you know the PIC doesn't necessarily have to have their CFI to allow you to log dual received? Yeah, if they have their ATP rating and they're operating under Part 121 or Part 135, you can log dual received when you're with them. I've attached a link in the show notes that will lead you to a document or a clarification letter about this topic, but you can also check out Regulation 61.167 and 61.3 to look more into it. So go find those connections and get some flights in some cool aircraft. The last thing you need to know if you want to be a pilot is that there are more options out there than just going to the airlines. Yes, of course, working for the airlines is a fantastic career choice. However, maybe you're looking for something a little different. Maybe you'd like to be home every night, so you get a job as a CFI or a private pilot. Maybe you want something that you personally feel is a little bit more challenging, like firefighting. I will be going over more details on jobs like these in my next episode, where I talk about all the cool things I learned about at the Women in Aviation conference I went to last month. So make sure you stay tuned for that because I'm going to try and get it out next week. There's so much for you guys to know, and I'm excited to tell you. To recap, if you do want to be a career pilot, you need to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, know that you will have exams for the rest of your life, know it's okay to fail a check ride and it's not the end of the world, chair fly, stop comparing yourself to others, network, and know that there's more to aviation careers than the airlines. I do hope you feel more prepared now for your future in aviation. And if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me at youraviatorsguide@gmail.com. If you haven't already, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my YouTube. And don't forget to follow, rate, and review my show on your favorite podcast platform. I sure do appreciate your support so I can continue to support all of you guys. Be ready for that next episode that will be covering all the career topics I learned while I was at WAI. And until then, stay confident, keep flying, and I'll see you later, aviators.